Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Emily.
This isn't a podcast for coaches. It's for you, for real people navigating real life. It's lighthearted, it's deep, and it's grounded in faith, friendship, and purpose.
And once a month, you can join us in our virtual Life Coach Lounge on Zoom.
So pull up a seat. The Life Coach Lounge is open. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the lounge. I'm Lisa, and I'm here with Angela and Emily. And today we're going to just invite you into our Marcos, really, which is what we do a lot of the time. But I think today is going to be even more just, we are going to shoot from the hip. We are going to repeat to each other things we've already said in the Marcos over the last week, but we're going to take it in a little bit of a different direction by just talking about an overall phrase that when we talked about it in the Marcos over the last week, all of us kind of approached it in a similar way and a different way. And we really, we used a lot of coach speak in just this one phrase. We unpacked it. We sat with it. We teased it out. We did all the things. So if you have ever had coaching, or maybe you are a coach, maybe you've even been in therapy, or even just in the mental health world, there are phrases, catchphrases that we hear often, sometimes in an exhausting way. We will hear those phrases. So today we're going to talk about one of them, and not in a way that is meant to tear it down, because I think we will all admit when we open it up the floor here that the phrase is actually very helpful, but it just needs a little more. As a phrase, it is nothing more than a sentence, and you need a little more to go with it. So we're not tearing it apart. We're just pointing out that sometimes you need a little more input. So we're going to get right on into it, ladies. Angela, would you like to introduce the phrase, since I'm pretty sure you were the one that introduced the phrase in the Marcos? And I meant today, before we popped on recording, I meant to go back and count how many Marcos we actually had that were just talking about this one phrase that Angela is going to share.
And even on a Saturday.
Oh,
a
yes.
Rare occurrence for the three of us.
So I had to play catch up on that particular Saturday. So I can tell you there were 8 videos for me to go back and watch.
Okay. There you go. There you go, friends.
It was a hot topic on a Saturday in the Marco Polo app, which is so fun and kind of rare. We're usually a Monday through Friday Marco Polo.
Yeah. So I think I was the one who brought it up. In one of our coaching communities, we learned the phrase, I honor my word to myself. And so I think I just said, is this helpful? How I have things that I want to accomplish in my life. I say I want in my life, but I'm not doing the work to make them happen. And would the thought, I honor my word to myself, be a motivator to help get those things done? And we all went back and forth from there. It was great conversation.
I think what was very helpful to me was the questions that we asked each other, because we are all coaches and we are trained to listen, even when we are just talking back and forth, even bantering back and forth. Sometimes we'll be like, oh, wait a minute, what do you think about this? And then sometimes we'll squirrel out and go a totally different direction. Sometimes can be a random question, like Emily asking just yesterday, hey, what do you think the actual definition of a cottage is to you? Like sometimes it can be completely like, let's just have a conversation about this particular topic. And then other times it's the detail in the questions that we ask each other that just make such good conversation. So I honor my word to myself. I will admit, when you first asked about it in the Marcos, I I went deep. I went deep into, huh, do I honor my word to myself? Right? Because the first thing our brain is going to do, okay, the first thing my brain did was like, do you? Like it immediately wanted to point out, do you or do you not? And then if you don't, why don't you? And have you like all the negative stuff started coming in. And both of you had to point out to me when I said an example to you on how I didn't honor my word to myself. Both of you were very quick to be like, girl, actually, if you listen back to your own Marco, you will notice that you were honoring your word to yourself. It just didn't look the way you thought it should. So
you need to share that example.
Yes, and yes, I think I will share that example. But the phrase itself, I think one of the things that we really went back and forth on, where we all decided that there was work involved in either keeping your word to yourself, honoring your word to yourself. Like there had to be some underlying action plan. And then we all got curious on, well, define the word work. Define what needs to happen in order for this phrase to be helpful. Because we did ask each other, do you feel, like I said, like my brain was like, you might actually be doing this? Or do you feel stuck? Do you feel stuck, or do you feel like, yeah, no, I got it. I honor my word to myself every day, all day long, 24/7.
Well, I think the way that it's worded, I honor my word to myself, it sounds very noble. It sounds like, oh, this is fruit of the spirit type stuff. This is self-discipline. This is my yes is yes and my no is no. And so it kind of has a weight to it, like almost like an identity. Like I honor my word to myself. This is who I am. And so it feels very important and very noble. Like this is serious stuff here.
And often it pertains to goal setting. I think that is where you brought it up, Angela, where you said you had specific habits or goals that you wanted to reach, and you were finding evidence about how you weren't honoring your word to yourself in relation to those specific habits or goals. But then we quickly came back and said, actually, you have quite a few habits and goals that you have achieved and other things you do in your life where you are honoring yourself. You're honoring your word to yourself, keeping your word. And so this isn't just a one size fits all super motivational phrase that you could go from never setting goals, never developing habits, not having any self discipline to, oh, this is the magic phrase. If I just say I honor my word to myself every day, all of a sudden I'll be a person who accomplishes all of these goals and all of these habits. It's not that cut and dry. It can be once you open yourself up to, if that's a motivational phrase for you to develop one of those habits. But this is a great example, I think, of a tool. This is a phrase. This is advanced thought work, is how we were taught this to be. There are a whole list of other phrases that you could use to be motivating phrases to help you move forward, to help you grow. But just like any other tool, if you don't know how to use it properly, it really isn't going to be useful. So I think too, Lisa, when you were you came in, the Marcos, and you gave us evidence about how that phrase just didn't work for you as it related to your planner. And maybe you want to give a little more insight as to that whole story. But we had to point out, actually, it did give you a result, but not the result that you initially set out in hoping that you would come to. So it gave you a result, just not the one you thought.
Yeah. And I think it is important to remember that however you want to say it, it's not one size fits all. It's it might work in some situations and maybe not in others. And because our brain wants to make that mean that the first and foremost there's failure involved, right? If you're not honoring your word to yourself, then you've failed at something, whether it's goal setting or I think mostly goal setting. But
But even with that, with the failure, if you're working with a coach or if you're learning this material, you're understanding failure is going to be part of the process. How do you want to be prepared and what strategy do you have when you feel that quote failure? Because it's not failure, it's just learning. Because again, it's not a magic phrase that all of a sudden you're a person who keeps your word to yourself 100% of the time. No, there's going to be days that you don't keep your word to yourself, and then you deal with what comes up then.
Yeah. And I think even as advanced thought work, even for 3 coaches sitting here who have been doing quote unquote that word work for a number of years, our brains still offer up to us a really sneaky way to make us question ourselves. So, like you said, Angela asked the question in the Marcos and then admitted that she had to sit and think and be like, wait a minute, I actually do honor my word to myself. My brain wants to tell me I don't. And then the two of you actually had to call me out on it. So, just for our listeners, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of my example I gave to Angela and Emily in the Marcos. I, for a solid 2 years, wanted to use a hard copy planner, a binded hard copy planner.
The kind you can put stickers in.
Yes, that one. Like my friends use here in the lounge. And I was all on board with the way we were even instructed to use a planner. I got coached, I can't tell you, at least a handful of times on my thoughts around why am I not honoring my word to myself? I would have like a solid week or maybe 3. And then you look at the rest of the planner and it would be mostly blank. And I would use it to like take notes on a coaching call or something. I wouldn't use it for what it was designed for. And again, I kept getting coached on it because I thought the planner itself and my thoughts about the planner were the problem. Well, it turns out that after a lot of coaching and coaches asking me questions, I realized that, well, I wanted to have that pretty planner that I could put stickers on and be like the cool kids, and it really wasn't for me. What worked best for me was the digital world. So I work better with a digital calendar that I can pull up on any device, color code, not with stickers, but color code it and use it that way. And so I pointed out that story to Angela and Emily, and both of them came back reminding me that I got coached more than a handful of times. I gave it 2 years of, okay, well, let's pivot. Let's change my thought work. Let's do, like, it's not that I just gave up.
You bought all the planners.
I bought all the planners. I paid for the coaching. I did the work, but my brain offered up to me because my goal was I want to use a hard copy planner and that didn't work. Therefore, I failed. I did not honor my word to myself. And these two lovely ladies were like, try again. I mean, in the nicest of way, but they were like, I don't think so. As Angela would say, I call BS. Nope.
And that revealed to you that your goal was, I want to learn how to use this planner. I keep my word to myself when I use a paper planner. But you didn't just stop organizing your life and keeping track of your appointments. You just realized in that process that digital was better for you. So it's not that it didn't work. It's that you found it out through that 2-year process, which is amazing to put effort towards a goal for a solid 2 years. But then eventually you just made peace with the fact that, no, I like to do things with technology. I don't need the paper and the stickers and hard copy planner.
Right.
So it did work for you.
Yes, and I see that now. I don't think I saw that 4 or 5 days ago, but I do see that now. And that, all our listeners, is the beauty of coaching.
Sometimes it takes a little time for us to come around to the perspective.
Yep. So can the two of you, we've touched already on quite a few of the reasons why that particular phrase needs just a little more clarity to it in order for it to feel like a phrase that you can use to achieve said goal or outcome. So we talked a little bit already about trusting the process. Emily touched a little bit on the discomfort, but which one of you would like to talk about that just a little more? Because I think that is pretty important, that piece of it, that you have to feel the things you don't want to feel.
I can take that one. So another phrase that I think we've all learned is, I'm willing to feel any emotion. Just saying that out loud, I'm willing to feel any emotion. When the feelings of failure or discomfort or anger or frustration come up, that phrase can be helpful, but there can also be resistance, because in the moment you're like, I don't want to feel this. This feels terrible. But making your mind up ahead of time, again, with this, I keep my word to myself, understanding that discomfort and a little bit of trial and error is normal and healthy and part of the process. Knowing that ahead of time, you can prepare yourself. Oh yeah, this is the part where this is uncomfortable, and I said ahead of time, or I wrote it on my paper planner, or I made note on my digital notes app, wherever you keep it, right? That I was willing to feel any emotion. And we've talked before, emotions are just signals. So you could at that point decide, this isn't working. I'm not going to set goals. I actually don't keep my word to myself. I'm done with this, and close the book on it. That's an option. Or you can decide, well, of course, I took a step back. Of course, I didn't follow through like I wanted to because of circumstances, because of who knows what the reason might be. And then decide, how do I want to move forward?
And I think Angela pointed out too that in that phrase, I honor my word to myself, the word honor, pay attention to that, because Angela pointed out that that could feel a little heavier than works for you. So Angela, can you touch on that a little bit? Because I think it's important to make the connection so that it's not a loophole, though. Like, you don't want to be like, ooh, I don't know, honor feels heavy and uncomfortable, as Emily just said, because that's going to come with the process. So, can you just touch a little bit on that so that we don't get confused with, well, I don't like the word. So, you're already like premeditated. It's like, I'm already planning for that to feel uncomfortable. So, I won't do it.
Yeah, of course, discomfort will come up. The example I was thinking of is if I, for example, say, like, I'm not going to eat sugar for a month. And then, the time of day I usually have my little piece of dark chocolate comes around, and suddenly I have an urge. And like Emily said, I have a choice to make. Am I going to feel the urge and feel the discomfort? Or am I going to use this phrase? No, I'm a person who honors my word to myself, or even what we talked about on Saturday, a bridge thought, like I'm becoming, just to soften it a little bit, I'm becoming a person who honors their word to themselves, might be useful in motivating you to push through that urge, feel the urge, and make the decision to not eat the little piece of dark chocolate. It's interesting. Jim and I were talking about it because we had talked about it for so long on Saturday. On Saturday night, I was like, okay, we had this great conversation today. And I said, it was all about honoring your word to yourself and, using that as a motivator. And can you think of any examples how this worked for you? He looked at me like I was speaking Chinese. I mean, he was just like, what on earth are you talking about? This thought has never entered my brain ever. And yeah, I don't think like that. So
I get that feedback a lot too.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
same.
I think it's so funny. So yeah, this is an optional thought. I honor my word to myself as an optional thought. But I wanted to tell you, I spoke with another coach about this and just asked, like, is this something that you use to motivate yourself or you find useful with, your clients? Like, this would be something that would serve them well. And he actually said, if someone came to me and said, and we use the example of like fasting from sugar. He said, if someone came to me and said, I decided to fast from sugar and I've been doing great because I am a person who honors my word to myself. He said, the first thing I would ask you is, are you okay? Is everything okay? What's going on with you? Why do you feel like you need to control this area of your life? What parts of your life feel out of control?
Interesting. I love that. That's that part I was talking about where when you have this type of conversation, especially with other coaches, I get that. But then people ask really good questions.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us more.
I was like, okay, thanks for the feedback. I think I'll throw that one out. Are you calling me controlling? Okay.
I think that's a prime example, though, that you can't just take these catchphrases that you hear, even the three of us say, maybe even on the podcast, and we talk about how something worked for us as a motivating phrase or a concept. If it doesn't motivate you, that's okay. Find something that does. And when you use it and then it doesn't, quote, work, like we talked about, it works or it doesn't work, that's not really even true. But when you hit a roadblock, there are deeper questions.
Yeah.
Even setting a goal. Why do you want to set that goal? What's the why? There's like this exercise you can do, the 7 layers of why. You ask yourself why you want to set that goal and you answer it. And then you say again, why? You do that 7 times. And then you can actually sometimes get something very insightful at the root of. Not every goal goes that deep, but a lot of them do. So yes, control might be a root cause somewhere along the line. And yeah, it's good work, but there's no formula. There's no formula for it.
I think in addition to what you just said, I'm just piggybacking on it, it has to match your energy, meaning it has to go in step with who you are at your core. Like if you use any phrase, any thought, and there's friction, again, be careful of that loophole, because the friction could simply be the discomfort that you know might be coming, and that's not necessarily a reason not to do it. But if there's friction there because the resistance is, this does not align with who I am, it doesn't align with my core values, it doesn't align with my beliefs, then pay attention to that. And that might be where that coach that you had that conversation was going. Like, are you okay? Are you trying to honor something that's not aligning with who you are? Maybe a different phrase or thought would be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. The word pressure just came up too. Like, if any of this feels like you putting pressure on yourself, that is worth exploring. Because is it work and does it take discipline and is it uncomfortable to grow in the area of developing a new habit or accomplishing a new goal? Yes. But if there's any sort of pressure or guilt, or does that make sense? Like if there's
Yes.
pressure there, that is really good to notice. So in full disclosure, I was a person who, when we started meeting, the three of us, when we first met in coach certification, we were learning all about goal setting. I had the paper planner. I used it probably 70% of the time. It was working for me. I had goals. I've accomplished so many things through 90-day goals. But I would say for the last 9 months, maybe even a year, I have not set goals. And if I have, I did not set them seriously. And at first, that felt really uncomfortable, like pressure, like, or you're not doing the thing. You should be doing the thing. Like, you learned how to do the thing and you're not doing it. What's wrong with you? And then I just gave myself permission to be like, it's okay if I don't set a 90-day goal right now. It's okay. Full permission. Permission slips. We love to give those out here, don't we, ladies? Full permission slip to not do the thing just because it's what you've done and you've seen a lot of progress with it. And turns out it's been exactly what I needed. Just the permission to slip, to take a step back from all of it, to not, because it felt like pressure. It was starting to feel like pressure to continue to do the thing when what I needed was a break. So I love that you said that, Lisa. Does it align with you, who you are, your energy, even your energy at the time, the capacity for what you have, physically energy, your mental energy? It's okay to do it the way that it works for you.
So are you saying your 90-day goal was to rest?
Yes, but so it's funny enough you say that, because I would say a year ago, that was my 90-day goal, rest. So I even made that a goal. And then after that, I realized, okay, that was beneficial, but I don't need to make it a goal. I can just make it a state of being. I am in the state of rest and taking care of myself right now.
Love it.
But this is opening me up to wanting to set another 90-day goal. So sometimes that break is just what you need to spark that energy again, to challenge myself to do something new. Stay tuned.
I'm going to weave it right in here, ladies, because this is the beauty of coaching right here, is in what the two of you were just saying. Again, because a coach, a therapist, they're trained to listen and to pick up on maybe the BS stories you're telling yourself, but they're trained to listen and then to ask those questions, because it's likely they're going to pick up on, is this matching your energy? Is, would you say that coach said, what is wrong with you? What is going on? But like, they're what's the word I'm looking for? An unbiased, right? Like we can remove ourselves from the situation, and you need that. You really do need that. Well, ladies, it has been a half an hour already, and it's hard to believe. I did not think we would talk even this much about something we have talked about so much over the last week. But I think it's a good conversation. And I think as we close this out, it's not just the phrase we unpacked today or sat down with and all those other phrases. It's paying attention to whether you have a phrase of your own or you hear someone else use a phrase that makes you go, like take a closer look at it. First of all, come and tell us, because we always love to know like what other people are thinking about those type of topics of conversation. And we would genuinely love to hear your feedback on that. But if this episode was useful to you because you're like, oh yeah, maybe this phrase is not working for me and I need to just think about what is really happening here. What is the why? Then do us a favor. Share this episode with your besties. Share it with your coach. Share it at large. Please and thank you. As always, friends, it is so great to hang out in the Marcos with you, but also in the lounge. And we will see all of you again next Tuesday. You never know what we're going to bring to the lounge next week. So have a great week, everyone.